Namaste, and welcome to the Buddha Circle, where we explore how to suffer less and become more happy, finding those moments of bliss in everyday living. We have our leader, who is an American-born Buddhist monk, then Kusala, and he's going to be with us today as we explore Buddhism. And what I wanted to ask you first is, how did you come upon this path of Buddhism?
It was from a book by Houston Smith called World Religions, and I was looking for a religion. I was born a Lutheran. And
So was I.
there we go.
Yeah.
And by no fault of my own.
Mine either.
And so Buddhism was one of the chapters in the book, and it made a lot of sense. And so I read it twice and found a meditation center. And that was the beginning of my journey.
Oh, that's fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. What is your vision for the Buddha Circle? Because you come and give us a lesson once a month, every month, on Buddhism. And in the Buddha Circle, we all get to contribute and ask you questions, and we love it. So everybody join us. So what is your vision for the Buddha Circle?
My vision for the Buddha Circle is to show up and, and to have something to say. And of course, Buddhism is an ancient tradition, 2,600 years old. And so there's a lot to talk about. And it's about how to be engaged in life, how to live it fully, how to experience the good and the bad, and end up finding happiness along the way.
That is a tough one, is finding happiness. I know that for sure, because I know most of your members that come in to the Buddha Circle, that's what they're looking for, is happiness. Yeah, so.
Yeah, and one of the things that we're told as we live and grow is that happiness comes from consuming. Consumption is the path to happiness. And ultimately, happiness is not found on the outside, but found on the inside. So Buddhism is a practice that redirects your vision from the outside to the inside to find our true nature and to find our true happiness.
Oh, that's wonderful, because we're all looking for a little happiness. One of the students wanted to ask this question: how does being nobody and going nowhere lead to happiness?
Well, that's a very Zen concept of being nobody and going nowhere. In the beginning, we need to be somebody, and our whole life is devoted to that. Our parents, our school, our peer groups, our career. It's a way of evolving into someone, and allowing us to interact with other people who are practicing being someone as well. But as we get older, my experience has been that being somebody can be more of a burden than a gift. And we define ourselves by our stories and how we relate to those stories. And sometimes it feels good just to put down the pen for a while and not have to be any story at all. And in that moment, we can come into the direct experience of our life.
That's very much of like living in the now, not dwelling in the past and planning for the future, but actually living in the now and living each moment fully and finding happiness there.
Yeah, I think it's important to plan for the future, but understanding that all the planning we do is done now. And not to expect our plans to turn into reality, but simply be a guide and direct us. If we don't have any plans, it can be difficult to have a full life. But the plans are simply mind thinking, as opposed to being real and unchanging. So as we practice, we become less and less, but that less and less allows us to become more fully engaged in the world.
I totally agree with you. And I know in today's world, with so many of us in America, we are so into multitasking. And you speak to us so much about being mindful. Can you tell us a little bit about multitasking versus being mindful?
Well, it's multitasking is something that a lot of people do because they have so much to do. And the problem is maybe we just have too much to do. As we start to slow down and come to a place of ease and comfort in our life, we find that we can pick and choose, prioritize our life. And doing one thing at a time allows us to engage properly in our activities. If we're doing 2 or 3 things at a time, or at least it seems we're doing 2 or 3 things at a time, it's really hard to do any of them well, and hard to be engaged with them.
Yeah, it's very hard to focus on 2 or 3 things. Absolutely. One of the other things that one of our students asked was the Buddhist view of suffering in the world and how we can deal with it.
Yeah, the Buddhist view of suffering sort of works like this. Pain is not optional, but suffering is. And so what the Buddha said basically was that if we want things to be different than they are, we're going to suffer. So the Buddhist path is a way to come to acceptance with the way things are. Now, a lot of the things that happen aren't necessarily good or pleasant or create happiness in our life. And so a Buddhist would say, well, I need to be engaged in the world, not to change the world to make it better, but to change the world so humans and others will suffer less. And bringing them to a place of ease and acceptance with the way things are as well. So suffering is optional, but pain isn't.
And that leads our path to happiness.
Without a lot of suffering, happiness is a lot easier to connect with, that's for sure.
Absolutely. And that's what we're all looking for, is a little bit of happiness and those blissful moments in our everyday life. Another question, if end of life is determined by dying, how is it determined how often reincarnation occurs, and is it began in the womb each time? I thought that was a very interesting question.
Yeah, death simply ends this lifetime and prepares us for the next lifetime. A Buddhist would say life does begin in the womb on planet Earth, but there are many realms of existence. There's an angelic realm, there's an animal realm, there's a hell realm, and those don't start in the same way the earthly realms begin with animals and humans. We don't use the word reincarnation, we use the word rebirth, and rebirth happens every time a new level of existence is experienced. And so in the human realm, we have a father, a mother, and karmic energy. And when those 3 things come together, life on earth begins. So we would say that life begins in the womb. And then when this life is over, that karmic energy is released and seeks a new rebirth, either in a higher realm, the same realm, or a lower realm. The thing about rebirth is there's a certain accountability that humans are responsible for their next rebirth. So if you say, I didn't ask to be born, a Buddhist would say, well, yes, you did.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. And of course, we all understand, as Buddha's life here on earth, he finally went to nirvana. No more rebirthing.
That's right. He ended his cycle of rebirths and figured out a way to exist without being born. And we call that nirvana, which is existence after life, but not because of birth.
Another really fun thing that we do with Vin Kusala every once in a while, when he can, is he plays a harmonica and the ukulele. Although he also takes care of how many cats?
12 cats now.
12 cats, and one of them bit him.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, he did. It wasn't his fault, though.
No.
He was just being a cat.
Yes. So what we're doing today is we're celebrating Buddha's birthday. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I can. The Buddha's birthday traditionally celebrated the full moon day of May, so it would be celebrated next month. But in the Japanese tradition, there's something called Hanamatsuri, and that happens in April. That also is a celebration of the Buddha's birth. It is said that the Buddha was born on the full moon day of May. He achieved his enlightenment on the full moon day of May, and he died on the full moon day of May. So it's an auspicious day.
It is.
And Buddhists around the world celebrate that day because that was the day that the teacher arose in the world and allowed us to have his teachings so we could achieve nirvana and release from suffering and ultimate happiness and peace as well. So it is a day that's often spent at the temple with food and chanting and meditation. It's a day that reminds us that our journey in this lifetime can end in this very lifetime with nirvana.
Yes. And he's very, very talented because he not only plays for us, he plays for other entities too. The Jazz Festival, remember that?
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm lucky enough to play well enough to be invited. But as I become more aware, I think the function I perform is this. I'm invited to play, and that makes the real players and singers look so much better.
Right.
So.
Oh, he's so modest and everything. And one of the things that we are doing here in Leisure World is redeveloping our website. So all this is going to be on the Buddha Circle website here in Leisure World. So please click into that. We will have then Kusala's website so you can do a little research on then Kusala. And of course us also. And we definitely want you to join us, the fourth Saturday of every month except for November and December. And we're here in Leisure World, Clubhouse 4, from 9:30 to 11. He also leads us in a meditation, guided and silent. So we've experienced that once a month, that peace that we're all looking for. So please join us. Invite your friends, your neighbors, your family. We're open to all. And if you have any questions, please give me a call at area code 562-296-5588. My email is Lynn, Lynn, R as in Randy, Heath, Heath, @gmail.com. And check our website here at Leisure World for all of our information. We'll keep it updated and keep you informed. We hope to see you next month.